Thanks for coming, everyone. My name's Dan, and this is Leanne. We are strength and conditioning coaches here at the QAS with the volleyball program. We're going to run you through today a presentation on essentially warm-ups, but preparing your body and listening to your body and recovering well, pre and post training and pre and post competition. So hopefully you can get a bit out of it, take it away, both for athletes and parents as well. Hopefully you learn something. So just before we get started, a bit of housekeeping. Toilets right down the end there, so feel free to use them if you need. And evacuation, if you hear a noise, we'll just kind of head out back the way you came in onto the grass hill outside. I think that's all the information. Yep. Otherwise, just panic if you don't know. All right. Figure it out. Cool. Get started. Awesome. So what we'll look to cover today, hopefully you can walk away knowing why you prepare your body for activity or warm-up, so why we do it, how to create one on your own, so when you're on the road at a competition, how do you come up with one yourself and knowing that it's actually going to be beneficial for you, and what type of exercises can I and should I be using for volleyball specifically. Okay. Cool. So I just want to take a few minutes now, turn to the person next to you, and I want to think about, why do you warm up? So when you, before a game, before training, just as easy as that, why do you warm up? What's your reasoning? So take a few minutes now, have a bit of a discussion.
Just don't quarantine.
First of being outside. I feel like a 40-year-old. I actually got so excited.
And there's a usually like his whole goal when he's run and just have more.
Righto, so I'm really curious, what do we come up with? What are some reasons why? So just yell at me. What are some things? What are some reasons why you warm up for training or for competition?
Injury prevention.
Injury prevention, yep. Why else?
Warm the body up.
Warm the body, perfect.
So you can like play your best.
Play your best, yep. Prepare to play your best, yep.
Focus is needed before training.
Yep, it's like mental preparation, yep. Anyone else have anything different?
Muscle activation.
Yep, yep. Cool, awesome.
Awesome. Alright, so key benefits of a warm-up. So largely to do with temperature-related benefits and non-temperature related. So as you increase your core temp, basically physiologically, you're decreasing resistance of your muscles and joints, so you're actually more mobile. Greater release of oxygen as well, so you're getting your aerobic capacity ready to train. There's other metabolic and neural activations going on as well from a physiological level for temperature related. So that's more from the deep down into your cells of your muscles. Non-temperature related, increasing the blood flow, elevating your oxygen consumption, post-activation potentiation. So once you do a certain type of exercise, it allows you to do that exercise again, but more at a maximal intensity. And psychological effects and like Alicia said, it made her more focused. So it actually allows athletes to be better prepared and going mentally through your pre-training routine. Methods of a warm-up. So there's 4 sort of categories that a warm-up sort of consists of. Static versus dynamic. Who can tell me the difference? Bit of a key question. Anyone know? Yeah.
Isn't static stand still and then dynamic movement?
Yeah. So static versus dynamic is largely to do with stretching. So static is when you hold a certain position, versus dynamic, you actually take a certain limb or action through range. An optimal warm-up will include both types, but in terms of research and what has historically changed, dynamic is more commonly used. Active versus passive. Does anyone know what that means in terms of a warm-up? A little bit different to stretching.
Active is like you're doing it, you're taking your body through motion. Passive is like it's assisted, so either someone is stretching you or like using a machine or something like that.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, correct. Active is where you use exercises to warm up your body, and passive is you using external methods to keep temperature up. So for example, on a rainy day, you may use a thermal jacket to keep you warm. So other methods, or a hot shower. External methods to keep your temperature up. What's called a ramp method is how you generally structure a warm-up, and it's pretty much a really quick checklist to make sure you're hitting the components of a really good warm-up. So R for raise is increasing your muscle temp, your core temp, increasing your blood flow and your muscle elasticity, and just switching on your neural pathways. Activate, engaging the muscles in specific movements for your training session. So if I'm a sprinter, I'm going to be doing my leg swings. If I'm a volleyball athlete, I'm going to be doing my my hitting drills. Mobilize is focusing, again, increasing your skill component, but at more of an intensity. So not just your generic movements, but a little bit more sport specific again. And lastly, potentiate is where you sort of increase your intensity designed for your training session. So if I am a 100-meter sprinter and I've got a max effort, I'm going to be doing my 60%, 70%, 80 to 90% in terms of my build-ups for my actual volume of my session. Who can sort of give me an example? You guys are volleyball athletes. What would you do in a warm-up to potentiate? What would you get ready to do for a training session? More sport specific. Yep.
Like when you are warming your shoulders up, you'll do a couple swings at like 50-60%, and then before that you're not just going to swing really hard straight away. Do a couple swings and then gradually increase the stress.
Yep. Perfect. Cool. Again, there's other things to consider for the structure of a warm-up. You've got to think as well your environment, so you may be limited to equipment, your actual physical space. What your coach has set up for the main training focus, you actually need to have some sort of a component in your warm-up that gets you focused for that main goal of the session. So if my main goal of the session is something speed focused, there needs to be a speed element in my warm-up. Another component of a warm-up to be considered is the length of a warm-up. So generally you're looking at 5 to 10 minutes, but that's largely based on intensity. So the higher intensity warm-up, the shorter it needs to be. And the higher intensity, again, you need a little bit of a recovery duration between your warm-up and your actual training session. So you can't just go into your warm-up straight into your session. Generally, your coaches will use that time in between to explain what the session is or what the next drill is. So there is quite a method from when you come on court or on the sand, the timing of things is really important.
Cool. Righto. So you notice there's a bit of a meme theme going on today, so don't complain, just enjoy. That's number 3, I think. There's plenty more, so don't get too excited. Righto, so just turn to your buddy again. We're going to discuss what specific exercises do you do before training or competing. So volleyball specific or just really generalised stuff. So turn to your buddy, have a chat. Feel free to stock up on lollies and chips in the meantime as well. Righto, so same thing, yell at me, what'd you come up with? What are some really specific and or general stuff? So I don't need sets and reps like gentlemen in front of you, but just tell me some really general or specific things you do. Even between beach and indoor, if there are differences, if they're the same, just yell at me, go. What'd you come up with?
Theraband.
Theraband work? Yep, it's like shoulder work, things like that, yep.
Rolling.
Hey?
Rolling.
A phone rolling?
Yes.
Yeah, yep. What about at school, when we had to play at school? What are some things we come across? What do we do to warm up? Do we just listen to teacher, or do we have our own?
Runs.
Run-throughs, yep.
Lunges.
Yeah.
Lunges. Any kind of jump work? Do you do jumps?
Jump in.
Hops. Jumping in the net? Yeah. I don't have that problem. I can't jump very high. I'm not very intimidating. I look pretty tall, I know, but I don't go through many jumps.
So like thoracic respiration stuff.
Twisting? Yeah, I had some twisting from here too. Yep.
Spanish squats.
Spanish squats. Do we all know what Spanish squats are? Awesome. They're not actually Spanish, they're just a type of squat. Alright. Oh, speaking of, alright. So, this is the way it's going to work. I'm going to go through a few key exercises that Leanne and I have identified that we recommend are super important for any kind of warm-up for training, competition, beach or indoor, and things like that. Alright, so I want to go through exactly the kind of cues and instructions I'm looking for when doing a certain exercise. And then we're either going to jump up and do a few of them ourselves with a partner, or we're going to get a few unsuspecting victims to come up and do it in front of everyone. All right. So, firstly, who has done a Spanish squat? Just put your hand up for me so I get an idea. Cool. Awesome. Anyone not done a Spanish squat before? A couple of us. Yeah. Cool. All right. By the end of the day, you'll know how to do it. No stress. So, firstly, starting your position with moderate tension in the band. So, by moderate tension, I mean I want you to set the band up like you normally would and take a step back, all right? I don't want a loose, flaccid band that's not going to do anything for you. So take a step back, make sure that there's a bit of tension in there before you start, all right? Aim to sit back and take the weight off the knees. So imagine there's a chair behind you and you're kind of reaching to sit back, all right? So you think of like an arc as you sit down. So you're kind of allowing the band to support you. Make an arc, sit back like you're trying to sit on a stool behind you, all right? So at the ankles, I'm kind of looking for 90 degrees, all right? Do we all do maths? Can you picture 90 degrees? That's what I'm looking for, all right? Try and get your bum a bit further down. This bloke isn't doing a very good job, but I want you to get your hips a little further down, all right? So 90 degrees at the ankles, 90 degrees at the knees, all right? I'm not a volleyballer. And the thing about sitting back in a chair, like I said, it's a bit far away. Cool. Anyone got any questions? Perfect, all right. We're going to demonstrate and just show you, kind of run through exactly what we're after, all right? So, hopefully we don't fall over. Sweet. So ideally, if you have 2 bands, does anyone? Do you guys have a bunch of these bands? That you guys have? Do anyone have any thicker bands that we have as well, or are they just these ones? You got thicker bands, yeah. So ideally, if you just have the 1 band, you'll just set up, find a pole, your favourite pole, anywhere you want, and just wrap the band around it, and you'll pretty much use it to support yourself and sit back and hold that position. All right. If you have 2 bands, you're going to set one up around your knees at knee height, and you'll use the other one to set up around the pole. Okay. So ideally 2, but if you don't have 2, just worry about the arms. All right. So set it up behind your knees and take a sit back like you're sitting on a seat a bit far away. So 90 degrees at the ankles, 90 degrees at the knees, nice and upright. All right, so no leaning forward, we're going to be leaning too far back. Sorry. Anyone got any questions? No, sweet. Thanks, Leanne.
Yeah.
Sweet. Right, who can tell me why we do it? What purpose is this serving? What do we do? Preventing injury? Yep.
Does it strengthen your patella tendon?
It does. Spot on. A+. You can have a free lolly if you like.
Yeah, we were going to throw it at.
Yeah, go on.
Oh, God.
Oh.
Yeah. Give myself more credit.
Yeah. Right, what else? Any other reasons? So, good for knees, good for the patella tendon. What does the patella tendon do? Why is it important that we warm it up, strengthen it? So, the patella tendon, anyone know where it lives? Where it is? On your knee? Perfect, right below your kneecap. Yep. So it's responsible for any leg extension. So when we kick, when we run, when we move, when we jump, that tendon there is really responsible for keeping everything in place, all right, and absorbing a lot of the load that we do when we jump and we land and we kick. All right. So it's really important in volleyball that we strengthen that, and Spanish squats are one great way to do that. Sweet. So bulletproof our PT. Nobody said anything about warming up muscles. So as we hold it, we generally want to hold it for about 20 to 25 seconds, don't we? Do we feel a burn after a while? Yeah, that's the idea. So we're going to warming up our muscles that surround our knee, so then things that affect our knees, so our glutes and our quads and things like that. Right? So what it does is strengthening our PT over time will allow you to withstand a greater amount of jumps, so higher frequency of jumps. All right? So as you get older and you progress as an athlete, your training load increases, your gameplay increases, potentially you move to the gym. Jump loads are just kind of gradually increasing as we go through. Really important so that you guys can do that successfully and stay playing on the court and stay training. Cool. Internal and external rotation. So anyone know what I mean by that? So we've got our banded work, I think. Has anyone done these before? Yep. Go through the rigmarole, yep. So we should be pretty good at it, I assume. Awesome. So, a couple of things to keep in mind. So we've got 2 types. We've got the one at the side. So we either have a band set up that we're pulling from inside to outside, or the other way around where we're going outside to inside. So we've got an external and an internal rotation at the side. A couple of things we're looking for. Same thing as the Spanish squats, we're starting with a bit of tension. Again, no use if it's all floppy, it's not doing anything. We want a bit of tension, and we're increasing the tension as we pull out, we're pulling towards ourselves. Keep the shoulder and elbow locked in, so I don't want to see any of this. We're not doing a TikTok dance like you guys do these days, all right? We want everything locked in. None of that TikTok business in my gym, all right? Keep it locked in, pulling out. Cool, make sure it's controlled, that's really important, control pace. No point in just ripping it back in. Try and keep the same speed. So I think 2-3 seconds out, 2-3 seconds in. All right? And then we've got the second type. So we've got one where we externally rotate. So we've got the band starting in front of us. And we're externally rotating, well, I call it overhead, but we're at the head. And we've got another one where we're starting behind us and we're pulling internally into ourselves, okay? So same thing, starting with tension in the band, keeping shoulders and elbows locked. So this one's a bit tricky if you don't have a lot of strength, because what you'll tend to do is this as you do it, all right? So really important that we keep it as stable as we can. All we want moving is the forearm up and down. Elbow, shoulder should be locked in position, all right? Takes a bit of practice. Cool, control pace like I said. Now the where you situate your band, so you tie to a pole or tie to a chair or tie to your mate, I don't really care. Just make sure that it's in line. So if I'm looking behind you, if you can look behind me, that band should be in line with my forearm. Shouldn't be from here, shouldn't be up here, shouldn't be too low, in line. Okay, the same thing goes for your internal and external rotation anyway, all right? Now, have any questions? Yes?
What if you have no pole, no buddy? What do you do with men with this one?
with this one. You can just hold it yourself, grab it out here, if you like.
Is it bad to step on it and do it because it's coming from below?
Not ideal, but if that's all you had, then that would still give you some benefit, yeah, for sure. You can even do, if you had no band, you can even do a self-resisted one as well, so you kind of place your hand on top of the other one, pull against it. Again, not ideal, but that's just something you do if you find yourself in the middle of nowhere with it, without a TheraBand. Cool. Any other questions? Cool, cool.
Easy.
Oh, cool, right, we're going to split up into pairs or groups of 3, and we're just going to get everyone to kind of go through and show me and show your buddies how you do it, just to make sure that we can do it properly, all right? Leanne and I are going to walk around, just going to make sure that everyone's okay with how to do it. Thanks guys, find your seats.
Yes, that was exactly what I was thinking. At least I guess if you land on it.
Thanks guys, just find your seats now. Oh yeah. We found Righto. So, can anyone tell me why we do it? So I know a lot of us do it really well. Why do we do it?
Warm up our shoulders.
Warm up shoulders, perfect. Why else?
Prevent injury.
Prevent injury. Strengthen. What are we strengthening?
Rotator cuff.
Rotator cuff, perfect. So rotator cuff comprises of 4 muscles that are responsible for controlling the shoulder as we hit a ball or as we swing our arm through, so really important. Cool, so we're touching on shoulder cuff strengthening. So increase, control an arm swing during acceleration, deceleration. What do I mean by that? So we're hitting a ball, we accelerate backwards, we decelerate to slow it down, then we accelerate on the way through, okay? So the stronger our rotator cuffs are, the more control we have, and the quicker we can accelerate to decelerate, and accelerate again to decelerate. All right? Yep, get some warm, and a bit like the Spanish squats, over time you can increase the amount of hitting volume and frequency that you do, so in a game or in a training and a match, and increase the amount of power you generate on the way through, okay? To hit it really hard. Cool, reverse Nordics. Can you guys see the pictures over here? Has anyone done these before? Everyone done these before? Anyone haven't done these before? Awesome. All right. So, a couple key things to keep in mind. Starting with your knees on the ground, that hip width apart. Keep your back nice and straight, so I'm actually looking for knees to shoulders, a nice straight line, all right? You guys all said you did maths, just imagine a triangle, all right? Engage your inner hypotenuse during this one, all right? Give me the longest point of a triangle. All right. So slowly lean backwards, so keyword, slowly, we're not dropping backwards, we're not losing tension, we're controlling the motion backwards, and then we're controlling the motion back up to the start as well, so we're not accelerating, okay? So, I always get this question, how far back do I go, Daniel? How far back do I go? Well, it just depends on your flexibility and how strong you are to keep that position during the movement, okay? So, if you haven't done it before, I think actually you can get everyone's done it before. So, yeah, you'll find that over time, you'll be able to go back further and further and further and get out of that bottom bit because you're stronger and more mobile as a result of just having done the exercise. All right, so try and go down a little further each time as you kind of warm up with the exercise. All right, so we won't go through it. I trust that you guys know how to do it all. Okay. Cool. Why do we do it though? I touched on it a little bit, but why do we do it? What purpose does it serve? Heard the word more? Yep. Hip flexors. What do they do? What are they responsible for?
You jump in flexing.
You jump in.
There is this jump.
Flexing, yeah. Awesome. Jumping. How do they help with jumping? What do they do to the leg? They hinge, lift. Yeah, hinge, lift. Cool. So running, jumping, changing direction. We're always in this position. Liberos probably more so than others, but we're always in this position, kind of getting ready to change direction. That's responsible for getting us out of that. All right. keeping us, it's engaged when we're crouching, and it's responsible for getting us out of that position. As we jump and extend and we land and we move our legs, hip flexors are one of the very main things that kind of help with that movement, all right? So if we're not strong there, increases the risk of injury. If we're not mobile there, increases the risk of injury, all right? So strength, preventing overuse injuries, and that allows us to perform on the court for longer, all right? So it's more of a strength endurance component to it too, so we can stay out there without fatiguing, okay? So the longer we do this, the more we do this, the longer we can perform on the court for, all right, in training. Cool. Bear crawls. Can everyone see the slide there? Has anyone not done a bear crawl before? Quite a few. So everyone's done a bear crawl before. How good are we at bear crawls? Not very good? All right, we might go through them. That sounds fun. All right, so a couple things before we get started. We won't split off yet. Start on our hands and our knees. What we'll do is we'll lift our knees off the ground, all right? But I want a neutral spine. Again, what angles am I looking for? 90, awesome, but no triangles here, all right? As you can tell. So 90 degrees, awesome. Yep, neutral spine from hips to head, nice straight line. So take small steps, keyword small steps. Every time I see this, everyone's trying to just lunge forward and go for distance. But what happens when we do that? If we take a really big step, we lose our tension, yeah. Keep with different words there. Alright, cool. So what do I mean by alternate? Moving alternate hand and foot, what do I mean by that? Alternate. Different, yeah, so left leg, right arm move at once, left arm, right leg move at once, alright? So we just keep repeating the process, and if we need to move backwards, we just do the same thing, alternate, simultaneous, okay? Cool, so what we're going to do now, jump up, you can be in a pair or you can be 5 or 10, I don't care, just find a space, and you're just going to show me you can get in that position, and just move forwards, and if you want, move backwards. Every time. Right, here we go. Good.
Fabulous.
And even. Right, I saw one thing I really did see was a lot of hips twisting, and that's common because we haven't built up a lot of strength. So as we move, our hips are kind of tipping. That's okay, that's normal, but ideally we keep everything nice and stable. Okay, so the analogy I used down there was keep a plate on your back. Your parents have just cooked your dinner. You've got a plate on your back of your hips. If you swing too much, what's going to happen to the plate of food? Fall off. Then we don't get to eat dinner. All right? As growing kids, I think you guys need dinner and you're generally always hungry. All right? So, the incentive there is to keep your hips level. Cool. So what we're going to do, I'm going to give you 4 options and see if you guys can guess the reason for why I or Chris or Leanne would get you guys to do this in your warm-up, okay? I'll give you 4 options. You've got to be really switched on because they're really tough. You really got to think about each of the options, okay? So, option A, do I get you to do it so that you can live in the woods among other bears? Don't yell out yet, just have a really good think about it first, alright? Do I want you to pretend to be a bear so that you can steal me some porridge?
Yes.
No, don't answer, just to think about it first. Is it for strength and strength endurance? Or is it just because either myself or Leanne just told you to do it, so therefore you just got to do it, and you got to be quiet about it? Right, so have a think, have a bit of a think about it. Righto, what do we got? What option? What's the answer? So I'm hearing C. Anyone got any other ideas?
D, because we trust what you tell us.
Thank you, but you shouldn't. Yes, it is C. Well done. Cool. So we're just going through. So, the reasons I love it is it uses your entire body. So not just our shoulders, but our hip flexors, our quads, our trunk and our core, our back, everything, the whole shemazel, right? Strength endurance. So as we kind of come forward and come back, I noticed that we only went through it once. We didn't want to do it more than once as we were practicing, all right? It's kind of tiring, hey? So it builds up a strength endurance capacity, all right? It's super fun, I know. And it allows you to control your own body weight, okay? So for a light person versus a taller, heavier person, they're going to be different, right? They're going to be different for the difficulties for either person. but it really lays a nice foundation for future strength work. If you can show me you can control your body during crawls and walks and things, and push-ups and bodyweight things, you're setting yourself up really nicely, not just for an injury prevention standpoint, but for future strength and power work. All right, so it's a requirement to be successful in the gym and in a long-term athletic career. Okay. Cool. Righto. Tall to shorts. We've got Toby there demonstrating for me. So tall to shorts. We've done these before, and we land. Anyone not done these before? Not done them before? That's okay. So instructions. Reach towards the sky. Actually, someone want to demonstrate? Who's done these before?
Jeremy. Who's good at it?
Do you want to jump up? Yeah? Cool. Right, so I'll talk you through it, just right in front of the eyes of the projector.
That's fine.
You sure?
Close your eyes.
Right. So reach hands towards the sky with your feet, balls of your feet, outstretched arms, so getting as tall and long as we can.
How long?
1 to 2 seconds at the top, and then we're going to drop into a half position. Yep, can you do a few of those for me? So notice that Sarah's not jumping upwards. Her feet are leaving the ground, but she's not counter movement jumping. We're just going tall, and we're just getting our feet to kind of reshuffle themselves in preparation for landing. That's why they come up, okay? So we're not jumping, but our feet do need to come off the ground. Landing must be instant, so I'm not looking for a squat. Should be like a reactive. We're not getting very high off the ground, all right? If you're a small person, you shouldn't be getting high off the ground. So stopping instantly is not going to be very impactful. But same again, it sets up a nice foundation for any future power work, strength work, and things like that, all right? I've just given some information on that. Why do we do it? I've just told you.
Power work.
Power, yeah, future power work, yep. Why us? That's right, I'll answer that one for you. So, built tendon stiffness, so our PT, our QT, our quadriceps tendon, any tendons involved in our ankles and our knees, it creates like a stiffness, all right? The stiffer our tendons are, the better we are able to produce and reproduce force, and produce power, and withstand a lot of power and forces during landing and jumping. Right, that's the same goes for the amount of jumping or the height that we jump and the intensity that we jump at. Really important. So it's which then leads to increases in stiffness lead to increases in injury prevention. So Toby's done these now, and he is bulletproof because of this one thing he did. All right. Cool. So it shows me that you can learn safely, so efficiently and safely. When we don't land safely and efficiently, we then increase our susceptibility to injury. Okay, so it's nice. Really, it's not a very complex exercise, and it's not very exciting. It is really fun, I know, but it's not very exciting. So, but it's really important that you get it right. Okay, because it sets a nice foundation for future strength and reactive strength and power work, as I mentioned before.
I have a question. Sorry. Would you recommend doing that on the sand if you're playing on the sand, like to warm up,
Yeah,
rather
good
than
question.
like on the hard floor?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So like we mentioned before, including elements in your warm-up that are specific to the sport you're about to play is super important. So great suggestion. So playing on beach, do it on beach. Indoor, do it on beach. No, do it on the indoor. Right. Find a bit of sand. No. All right.
Awesome. Why do we foam roll? Let's put it out to the group. Just yell out answers. Why do you foam roll?
So nice.
Yeah.
For like break up stiffness.
Yeah.
Release muscles.
Yeah.
What else? Lactic acid, like getting rid of it. Wait, can it? Yeah.
What was that? It's fun.
Looks cool.
Blood flow.
All the cool kids do it. Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, it does delay DOMs, so decreases your DOMs, and it is an effective way to increase your recovery post any sort of activity. It does break down a bit of your muscle to loosen your tight muscles, as post activity you are quite tight. And big one is increases your joint range of motion, and performance benefits as well post foam rolling is increasing jump height and your 5 to 10 meter in acceleration as well. And don't need that long, so 5 to 10 minutes of foam rolling pre and post activity is generally ideal. Cool. Alright, so a few take-home messages. Completing a warm-up is a widely accepted practice, so there is no circumstance where you'll never not do a warm-up, so it's the most optimal method for performance. Benefits are both physiological and psychological. Increase in sport performance, so a warm-up has been shown to increase, an optimal warm-up has been shown to increase your jump height and acceleration. And your dynamic and active practices are generally more commonly used with the addition of passive in certain circumstances. Yeah.
Just quickly, kids, who's this guy? Do you guys know who that is? Awesome. Done your homework. Austin Powers. Awesome. International Man of Mystery. All right, he does his warm-ups. Cool. So just thinking about when you structure your warm-ups, so thinking of raise, activate, mobilize, potentiate. All right, raise your level of blood flow, core temperature, muscle temperature. Activate the muscles through general and specific warm-ups. Mobilize, so making sure that we are moving through ranges of motion efficiently. And potentiate, so it kind of ties in with activate that a little bit. So we're getting ready to exposing ourselves to the movements we'll find ourselves doing in a game in a warm-up. So both strength and plyometric jumping work, all right? Both from the knees and the jumping and hitting with our shoulders and arms. So make sure that the warm-up touches on the key exercises. So things like light running and plyometrics and strength work and things like that. So that little infographic we had up before, if you're unsure, get back to that. And make sure it includes the key, or what we've identified as the key volleyball specific exercises that we kind of ran through as a group. So that includes your Spanish squat, internal and external rotation, bear crawls, things like that. Reverse Nordics, that kind of stuff. Cool. And foam rolling. So decreases delayed onset of muscle soreness, speeds up recovery and gets rid of, relieves tension in tight muscles. In general, so a heap of sporting benefits come from a result of foam rolling. Like Leanne mentioned, usual pre and post competition and pre and post training if you want, but mainly pre and post competition as well. And no more than 10 minutes. If you go over 10 minutes, there's no point, doing yourself any favour, right? 5-10 minutes. Cool, yep. That's the end of our session. We're going to open to the floor with Q&A. If anyone has any questions, we can maybe or maybe not answer them.
Which is better, foam rolling or trigger pointing?
Both. But it also depends. Just do it all. No, depends on what you're trying to achieve, right? So if you have if you're looking just to get rid of a generalised kind of post-game, post-training, I'm just fatigued everywhere, foam rolling you'll get the most bang for your buck. But if you find that you've got an injury or a really tight spot in a really specified, concentrated location, I'd trigger point for sure. Yep, and then you can hammer some foam rolling. So trigger point's probably necessary when you've got a really intense, really tight muscle, and you'd probably end with foam rolling as a lighter kind of solution on top of that, if that makes sense.
I was wondering if it's better to have the same warm-up routine every single time, or to go off how your body feels each time with a little variance, or maybe both, so do some variance, some the same every time. What's the best and the benefits of that?
Good question. Yeah. Warm-ups we've found through a lot of trial and error is that essentially you guys need to be the ones to come up with your own warm-up. So I'm not going to tell you that do the same thing every single time, because like you said, there might be a bit of variance in how you're feeling or any injuries you're coming back from. So at the end of the day, I'd think about two things. Have your key general warm-ups that you do every single time, but allow a little bit of space at the end for any kind of injury prevention specific work or injury, coming back from injury, allow a bit of time to kind of touch on those things too. Or if it's beach or indoor, you might have specific little things that you do to prepare for those specifically, right? Because I know they're quite different in the way that you play them, the requirements of each. But yeah, so out of a key, like your Spanish squats and those kind of things, your key exercises, and then finish with some really specific things if you need to allow for your variance and how you're feeling and where you're playing and the conditions you might be playing in.
I think to keep it more individualised as well, your warm-up compared to George's may be slightly different, because you may find you've done your normal routine, or the coach's routine for you, but you may need a little bit more, or you've come off a comp, a big weekend of comp, so you may just be feeling pretty fatigued, so you may not need as much in some areas, but more in others. I think you still need to be aware of that, how you're feeling on the day, because you'll never come in the same back to back as well. Yeah, so you still, that individual component's really important.
Okay, so like ideally like both, like have your routine and then
Yeah, yeah. So if you feel like you need more, do more of what you feel like you need. Yeah.
Any other questions just in general? Anything to do with exercise or strength training or volleyball? Anything while we're here, if you have any questions, it doesn't have to be to do with the presentation, but anything in general that you guys had on your mind?
Why do they do their daily exercises?
Good question. Injury prevention. As we identified, strength training increases injury prevention. Allows us to build a strength base, so that when you do future strength work, so that they're designed to like build a base of strength to get you guys to control your own body weight, to prepare for power jumping work and things like that, so that when you progress as an athlete through your career and you get exposed to the gym or working out and things like that, you're not starting behind everyone. I dare say you'd be ahead of a lot of people that aren't doing this kind of work. So really important that if you want to progress as an athlete and you want to keep yourself bulletproof, do those daily exercises. All right.
But they're really easy.
They are really easy, yeah. So your crawls, shoulder and left center rotation, jumping, lunging, they require, I'm pretty sure, no equipment at all. So you can do them anywhere. Just maybe not when you're traveling, but maybe just like at home or at a comp, or you're just staying overnight somewhere. You can do them anywhere you want. So that's what they're designed for, right? Really accessible, really easy, really fun. I'm telling you they're fun.
I think adding to that, at the end of the day, we're here for you to ultimately perform the best you can, and to perform the best you can for a long period of time as well. So we're all about the longevity of your career. So those daily exercises are dosing you in terms of the basics, because we aren't interested in developing strength if your foundation isn't strong. So there's no point on creating a pyramid that's built on sand. So as you grow up in terms of your career and as you get older, the more senior you become, you actually do rely on the really simple exercises, especially when injury does happen. So it's those basics that if you can get them right and tick them off early, it just sets you up in terms of creating a better foundation.
Just quickly on that too, if you're someone who potentially is either moving into the gym program or looking to or hoping to, this is going to set you ahead of the other guys who are starting the gym program who haven't done this. So when you come in, Leanne and I assess where you're at, strength-wise, and then we give you a program according to where you're at, okay? And if you haven't done a lot of strength work and you're immature in your, your strength training age, you'll be starting at those exercises anyway, okay? So if you do the exercises and now get good at them, you can come in and do some really exciting, things that are ahead of your peers and ahead of other people competing, other people playing at other schools and things like that. All right, so you can kind of get a bit of a head start on that stuff.